Louisiana All American Sports Show. 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 Louisiana. If the sports you wanna talk about, then listen to the hottest show that's coming out the South. It's Eric Hatfield and Coach Perry Daniels, man. They're gonna sit you down and tell you all about the game and make it plain. 96.9 FM, that's the station. To hear the best sports talk show in the nation. Without hesitation, you should get with this and get your popcorn ready, boy. You better not miss Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana. It's Joker B. Check this out.
Ooh, I'm just so fresh, so clean. Good morning, Baton Rouge, and welcome to another edition of the Louisiana All American Sports Show. Today is Saturday, September the 24th, 2016, and you're tuned into the 39th edition of the year 2016 of the Louisiana All American Sports Show. Good morning, this is Eric Hatfield.
And I'm Gerard Piper, a.k.a. Joker P.
And I'm Coach Perry Daniels.
And hey, we're ready to bring you a whole nother week of information, of sports, and things going on in the community around the country. Last night...
Hey guys, before we jump into the sports, man, let me say that, this is a historical weekend for the nation as we open the National Museum of African American History and Culture here in D.C. tomorrow. President Barack Obama will speak, and it's just a festive time. People are coming from all over the country, all over the world, actually, to be a part of this. And, due to my work with that organization, my daughter and I were privy to the preliminary opening of the donors, and I guess they would label, VIPs or whatever. And it's just phenomenal, guys. Anybody will be proud of what they have put together there in that museum. It was just astonishing, and my daughter and I were emotionally full last Thursday evening as we walked through that museum. Or last Saturday, actually.
Sounds pretty incredible. Sounds pretty amazing.
That sounds really amazing. I wanted to ask you, Coach, before we get into our sports talk, the difference you feel from being here and experiencing that type of thing than since you've been in Washington for a little bit. Explain to us the difference that you see for us African American history, and I've seen you met a lot of people. You've been to a lot of shows and seen a lot of historic people. Can you explain that?
Well, Louisiana is known for its culture. However, Louisiana's culture is confined or restrained to that region of the country. Here in D.C., you have such an eclectic mix of people that you get it from all over the world. And one of the things that it has exposed me to, Joker, is the commonality of people of color across the world, and what we deal with when we have to deal with, combat, and face supremacy of the white kind. So it's been very beneficial in that aspect because it's broadened my perspective on some things, and it's just been very fortunate.
Yeah, I've visited D.C. a couple of times, and I'll say when you compare it to Louisiana, and you're right. I mean, the culture here is largely confined to, say, the food and the arts and that's and history, and that's great. But there's a bigger world out there, and D.C. is one of those epicenters of one of those places that the world comes to. And the times I've visited there, it really is eye-opening to how much of a different world it really is up there and out there. So I can only imagine it's been an amazing cultural and social experience being up there in D.C., especially compared to here.
Absolutely. Let me say this, too, for our Southern University listeners. The jukebox is prominently displayed in the museum. So
that's cool.
When you get there, you make sure you find that, because that was beautiful to see, look up and see the human jukebox, the picture of the human jukebox doing their thing in the National Museum of African American History and Culture.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. Well, and there's plenty. I'll tell you what. There's plenty. The Southern University Jaguars are giving their fans plenty to play about. We'll talk about that a little later in the show. Last night, Louisiana All American Sports Game of the Week took us out to Denham Springs, Louisiana, out to the LPZ, Livingston Parish. And the McKinley Panthers faced the Denham Springs Yellow Jackets, who are from District 405A, a district that has 3 teams between Denham Springs, Zachary, and Scotlandville that could conceivably be playing in the Superdome in December. And the Panthers...
so we got to talk about this game.
Yeah, look, I know what you mean. I've had that feeling a few times. But, look...
well, that was in the beginning.
Look, the Panthers fell behind. The Panthers lost, first of all. McKinley lost 35-19, and fell behind very early. They dug themselves in a hole from which they weren't going to recover. What I did find, I still thought that was a very interesting game, and I think if you're a high school football fan, you would have found the coverage of the game, if you couldn't make it out there, very interesting and eye-opening and unusual and unique in a lot of ways. First of all, the Denham Springs team, you see them in the postseason. They're playing games in November every year. So that they were good and that they were well coached and prepared was no surprise. But I was with that being said, with that high expectation, I was still taken aback by the speed and the discipline and the organization. That team is different this year. That team looks like what I would expect a championship caliber, championship contending team to look like. So that's one team to keep an eye on. But the other thing was that the McKinley Panthers, after falling behind so far early in the second half, they shut Denham Springs out in the second half and put 19 points on the board, scoring those 3 touchdowns. And Denham Springs kept its starters in the game. They didn't just roll over in the second half. So I was impressed with the level of fight and determination that the Panthers showed in the second half of that football game, and that they didn't quit, and they bought into what their coach was doing. And we had a few remarks by Coach Hilton after the game, which I guess we can get to shortly. And I just got to say, as I was sitting there and I was talking to a joker on the way back from Denham Springs, and I said, I think the Panthers, they have got the right guy this year. They have got the guy. They need to build that program. Whatever it is, he's got it. Whatever it is, he gets it, and he's bringing it to those kids, and they're buying in. I think they finally, landed on nailed in the right space in the roulette wheel with Coach Ken Hilton.
And he gave an absolute moving speech at the end of the game. He took his team at halftime. He took his team together. They was losing 35-0 after Denham Springs scored 21 in the second quarter, and it just seemed like they was getting ready to run away with it. And I was really impressed the way McKinley came out in the second half and fought. They could have laid down. So they really won the second half 19-0. They tightened up on their defense. And so Coach Hilton took his team and told them, don't hold your heads down. We got another big game next week. I don't believe in quitting. I don't believe in holding your head down. I'll take full responsibility. It's my job to get you guys and put you guys in the right situation, in the right spots. They came together. They prayed. And it was real touching. He still motivated these guys, even in the loss. So it was kind of bittersweet at first. First play of the game, Denham Springs runs for a touchdown. 65-yard gallop by a kid named
Tyree Goldman.
Goldman and sacks. That's what I was talking about.
And there were a lot of... I'd be remiss as someone who covers high school football if I did not give some shouts out to some very outstanding individual athletes in that Denham Springs team that we probably won't see for the rest of the year. Tyree Goldman, running back. Hunter Scott, who played running back and quarterback and defensive back. Our player of the game was Caleb. 32 was another one, but Caleb Pipes, number 34, is our player of the game. Number 32 was Elijah. I can't remember his last name all of a sudden. But it's outstanding. And 99, Justin. Was it Gaffney? I think it was something like that. They had some. Yeah, they had some players on that team that would they just looked like they were so disciplined, so focused on what they did, so well coached. I mean, really just jumped off the page at me. It was more than I expected to see. So, but that being said, McKinley fought back, and they stuck pretty much with their basic script there. Their no huddle, spread offense, read option, and they executed more. They took advantage of their opportunities in the second half. I was really impressed. And I'll tell you, that was a growing experience. The McKinley team we've been covering on this show or on Louisiana All American Sports.com since 2013. That is not the team we saw last night. The team we had seen in the past first of all, would have had no passing attack, and then second of all, that might have been 60-something. It would have gotten uglier, and that didn't happen. So there's a lot to be optimistic about, and I think this young McKinley team is going to build its confidence off of that.
Oh, yeah, and speaking of Coach Hilton, I was able to catch Coach Hilton after the game, and he gave a few little words, so I'm going to share that with you guys right now.
Get up and get a break. Get up and get a break. Be loud and proud. Get up and get a break. Come on, man.
Coach Hilton, how you doing, brother?
Good.
That's good.
I get a few words with you, Coach. This is Gerard with Louisiana All American Sports. Very disappointed night. But how do you think you guys did the second half?
Well, I was finna tell them we got to come out and play 4 quarters of football. Denham Springs is a good football team. We missed tackles, we turned the ball over, we missed on some opportunities early, and they took advantage of that. In the second half, we came out, and I thought we played fairly decent. We did some things in the kicking game, got different possessions. We hustled to the ball. We got to put 4 quarters of football together.
So what do you think about next week? You got Central next week, another tough team. So what do you tell your guys this week in practice?
Well, main thing I just told them is this, we're going to get together in the morning, watch this, kind of see this on film, correct the mistakes, and after we correct the mistakes, we'll get ready for Central. Like right now, the body's still warm. It ain't cold yet, you know what I'm saying? So we'll get back to work, and we'll fight back. Like I told them, certain things I'm not going to tolerate on this team. Like, it's just certain things, some habits we got to break, we got to get out of, and whatever it takes for me to do that as a coach, that's my job, and I'm going to do that. So it's some things I got to fix, and some things I got to meet with these coaches about that we got to fix as coaches, and we'll get back and do it all over again. That's the beauty of this game, man. God bless us with another opportunity to, to play, and we guarantee 10, working to try to get 11.
Okay, was it mostly like the turnovers or the penalties, or were you mostly just talking about just basic execution or like boneheaded plays?
All of the above, man. All of the above. I think, there's some things we got to grow from. It's some things, we got to eliminate the penalties. Penalties have been killing us. That's been our season woe, and something we got to correct.
Yes, sir. Well, I want to thank you, man, and good luck going forward. And we'll talk to you again. Thanks a lot.
And so that was Coach Hilton last night. He had his team, and he was able to still keep those guys. We saw a couple of guys. We had actually our player of the game that was here for McKinley last week, Lawrence. I saw he got a little bit emotional after the game, and his players came to his aid. But, hey, we'll see what McKinley does next week. Coach, I know you was listening in last night. What did you think of the game?
Well, good question, man. So the first play of the game, when the young man rolled off the 65-yard touchdown, I knew it was going to be a long night. Denham Springs is a very tough place to play. And for this young program to go down there and to bounce back after halftime the way that they did, I think that is something to build on. To hold that explosive offense to 0 points for an entire half is phenomenal. And according to you all, Denham Springs still have their starters in there late into the game. Yeah, so it wasn't like they were playing the JV team the second half. They were playing still the same guys that had put up 35 points on them. So what that says to me, Joker, is one, there's an ability for Coach Hilton. Coach Hilton has an ability to make in-game adjustments. That's something that has been missing from the McKinley program for a few years now. And that is extremely valuable. I'm interested to see Denham Springs play Scotlandville. Man, can you imagine being a referee in that game?
Wow. We talked about that last night. And, of course, I'm going to be excited to see that because Denham Springs seems to be a lot better than they were last year.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen Scotlandville. I haven't seen them, so I don't know if If I can compare from
I saw
this year, what do you think?
I think it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be a fantastic game. It's going to be one of those times I wish I could clone myself and be in two places at once. Quite frankly, because that is going to be like what they call the main event, like in boxing. Because I do think Denham Springs is a little better than last. Good program, but they look like a different. They look like a team that has its mind focused on the championship. Scotlandville looks like a team that has its eyes focused on the championship. Both teams are playing football at a high level. Both teams have a lot of playmakers. That is going to be a contest.
And and that's going to be a real contest. And you know what Denham Springs reminded me of as I saw their team? It kind of reminded me a little bit of U-High. Mm-hmm. And even Goldman reminded me a little bit of Nick Brossette. Mm-hmm. And so that their offense, the way they ran it last night, really efficient. Everything was. So that's what they. So we'll see. It's going to be a bomb. You have any more scores?
Doc, it's funny you should say that because last night in the broadcast, I could have swore I heard Eric attribute some very famous U-High graduates to the Denham Springs program in Big Baby Davis.
Oh man, did I say that? Yeah, my bad.
I kind of looked at him because he was like, like this program of people that came from.
Who was it? It was Tyrus, and who else went to Denham?
Taz and Mitchell.
Taz went to McKinley.
Well, wait. Okay, so all right, help me out here because I know LSU had. All right, then help me out. Let's correct this for our audience. Taz and Mitchell.
Went to Denham
there were two other players that went to Denham Springs who were on that 06 LSU team. They had a couple of guys from there. Another hitter. Anyway, say la vie. My bad, folks.
I was waiting on Joker to correct you.
Well, I thought I heard him wrong. I said, well, I'll leave it alone. I didn't, but I did catch that though.
What other scores do we have?
All right. So on that note,
well, Eric's a little bit under the weather.
I'll tell you what. I really did think Big Baby was at Denham. So I'm trying to think of who else there was. But anyway, I'm not having the best day today. Should have stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. My fault, folks. That is on me. Southern Lab absolutely throttled Ascension Catholic last night, 50-0. St. Thomas More fell to Catholic High. U-High was smoked by West Feliciana, 40-10. Denham Springs, of course, beat McKinley 35-19. Riverside over Plaquemine 34-20. Keep an eye on the Riverside team. Scotlandville over East Ascension 34-20. Zachary ran up a tab on Calvary Baptist 63-33. Santa Ma Blanc Woodlawn 58-0. St. Charles Catholic handed Central its first loss of the season, 18-12, and of course we'll be bringing you McKinley at Central next week at 7 o'clock. Keep an eye on that. Central actually had won by some pretty large margins earlier, but ran against a tougher team. That was in a non-district. That was in non-district competition. Walker over Broadmoor, 56-12. Other action around the Baton Rouge area. I was trying to find a score for the Port Allen Pelicans, but I've not been able to locate one yet for them, and also one for the for Bruley, but cannot find scores in those two. Bruley did defeat Donaldsonville 33-12. Still looking for a score from Port Allen, but that's a wrap-up from around the area. A lot of one-sided. Last week we had a lot of very close games between some very good teams, but different story here as there are a lot of one-sided games. Parkview Baptist also over Baker 44-8. So that's
see if you can find Capital and Madison Prep.
All right. Give me just a moment. I will see what I can find there.
Separate games. I don't think they didn't play each other.
Right.
Separate games.
It was separate games. It was at Memorial Stadium. I thought, but they didn't play each other last night. Capital against Madison.
I don't think they may have.
I think they did.
I haven't had a chance to check.
I will get those scores ASAP. But yeah, I don't have anything on Madison Prep at all in any of the scores. That is surprising because I'm sure they played ball last night. And let's check.
Yes, sir, they played because actually it was on.
I have nothing on Capital either, so I don't know what's going on with that.
Maybe it's tonight for some reason. Or maybe Thursday night, just the Thursday night result.
All righty, we'll take a peek at that in just a moment.
But yeah, we'll move on, man.
All righty.
I guess we'll come back and deliver those scores once we get there.
Sure.
Do we want to go to the bluff? I'm going to have to cut out in a minute here, guys.
Well, I'll say this much. I know. I want to kind of get your remarks if you had a chance, because Southern, it's interesting. We talk about teams kind of taking steps, and you look at the Jags this year, And, they played ULM, a lot tougher at ULM, actually had a pulse at ULM for a while. They did have some trouble at Tulane, and they absolutely just blew Alabama State off the earth in their home opener. Now they go to Alabama A&M, and I know ASU has had its troubles, but Southern absolutely manhandled one of its conference peers. Of course, that was at home. So I'm having some optimism. I didn't get a chance to see the ball game. I just had a chance to watch the box scores and read the articles. But, I know that Coach Odoms is kind of putting a curfew on his team this year for SWAC games. I don't know how much impact that has one way or the other, but it certainly certainly shows a focus on discipline. But I got to kind of get your reflections as a if you have any so far. There hasn't been a lot of coverage on television, but what do you think of where this team is going so far? This has a chance for a good year in the SWAC, a really good year in the SWAC for the Jags.
Absolutely. This is a mature football team with a lot of talent, a lot of offensive weapons, and solid defensively. So the sky's the limit for them. Right now, they're playing I'm searching for the right words, but I'm going to use the bottom half of the SWAC right now. So that leads to building confidence and things of that nature, so that when you come around to the Alcorn States, to the Texas Southerns, the Prairie Views,
Jackson State next week.
Jackson State, yeah. See, so not only those more talented programs, but those rivalry games to where talent and records don't mean as much, like a Jackson State.
Absolutely, Coach. So I'm this. Keep an eye on this Southern team, man. We'll get into them a little bit later, but I did want to get your reflections before you dropped off. And also, Madison Prep Capital, they played last night, but there's no score, not even on the LHSAA site. So, scratching my head there. Yeah.
Yeah, something happened. We need to find out what happened there, guys.
Yeah, most definitely. You say you're getting ready to go, Coach, or you got to leave?
Yeah, I've got to go.
Okay, well, I want to get your thoughts before you go. You take these last couple of minutes to talk about the two unfortunate people that died at the hands of police officers, which has been in the news for the last week. And I just wanted to know your thoughts, and, of course, on the manslaughter indictment of one Betty Shelby, the officer who shot Terrence Crutcher in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay, well, to our regular listeners, I know this is redundant, and we appreciate you continuing to listen in. This is to the heart of the mission of Louisiana All American Sports, to address these type of issues. Let me say that, we've said before on this show that any type of charge against an officer is progress. That them having to go through the drama of court and that uncertainty may be a deterrent for future officers. So the charges in Oklahoma, they are a victory.
Were you surprised about it?
I was surprised about it. And Eric, we had just had our production meeting that Wednesday night. We had a pretty healthy dialogue regarding our individual thoughts on the subject, and I communicated to you all that, I understood the position of the police officer in that particular incident. However, I think there was some bad policing there, but I understood the principle behind the shooting. So I was surprised because I didn't think that they were going to actually charge him. So that was great. The other situations are what we've seen in the past. The North Carolina situation, it is what we've seen in the past. And what's going to be interesting about that is whether or not they finally decide to release the video footage.
And that's
what's
missing from the North Carolina situation.
That's unsettling.
Well, I don't know if you know, but the wife released a video yesterday,
I saw that.
her own video, and you can't really see too much. You're seeing when he's laying on the ground, but you can hear the commotion is she's walking up to the police as they're talking to her husband, and she's saying, "Please don't shoot him. Don't shoot him. He don't have a gun. He just took his medication. He has a severe
traumatic traumatic brain injury.
He has a traumatic brain injury. He understands you guys. Just please do not shoot him." Now she's standing right there talking to the police, telling them this, and they're steady. Get out of the car. Put down the gun. She's like, he don't have no gun. This and that. So I mean, I just encourage people to. It's all on the internet. You can be able to look and judge for yourself. My thoughts on it is it's just so tragic, and we've talked about this, and it was to the point where I'm almost frustrated in a sense of keep talking about it, and
yeah, it's like
we've got to. We've got to. That's what we do.
The recovery.
Let me say this. Let me say this, and then I do have to go, guys. That I don't think that we as a society are going to demand change in significant enough numbers until we see a gold medalist on his knees receiving his anthem, having the anthem played while he's on that podium on his knees. Maybe that will embarrass us enough as a country to where we say, you know what, we've got to do something different.
Wow. Hey, man, and what's so ironic? Yeah, man, we're so great to have you, Coach. Coach got to go take care of a little bit of business. But we're going to take over the ship, and we'll take over. What's so ironic to me, though, is that this has happened in Carolina, North Carolina, so that's Cam Newton territory.
Right.
And here it is, you got Colin Kaepernick, when he's, we know his stance and how these things.
Newton did speak out. I don't know if you heard his remarks or not.
Well, I did hear his remarks, and I think Cam is doing. I'm disappointed at Cam. Colin is now my favorite. Remember, it used to be Cam.
Well, I'm curious. He seemed pretty. I don't know. I mean, I'm just curious. I had a different perspective on that. I thought he was pretty candid and unfiltered in his comments. What was it that let you down with Cam Newton?
Well, maybe it's just me. I'm a little bit older than Cam Newton. Cam Newton is only 27 years old, so I know he's in a different space in his mind and in his career right now. But he just seems to be riding the fence, and he seems to be playing both sides, and he don't want to necessarily take a real stance. Back before the Super Bowl, Cam said that I'm a black quarterback, and that may intimidate some people. Mm-hmm. You remember he made those remarks, and he caught a lot of flack behind that. Mm-hmm. After then, they brought in what you call one of those guys who has focus groups. I think he works for Fox News. Mm-hmm. Charlotte brought him in this past off-season to work with Cam, to get him to be able to talk to the media and do these type of things. And what I've learned was he come back after that saying that I'm a black quarterback, people may not take me a wrong way. He come back a little bit later, a few months later, in GQ magazine and said racism doesn't exist. Do you remember he said that?
I don't, but I will check into it.
Yeah, he said racism doesn't exist and we need to get past it, this and that. And now he's coming back saying, so it's like it either exists or it doesn't exist. So I understand what he's trying to do. He's the face of the league, and he wants to become. He's almost kind of taking the Michael Jordan type of path in a sense. Try to stay away from this controversy. Don't ruffle anybody's feathers. But with this Charlotte shooting, he has to say something because he's in Charlotte. So it just had me a little bit more disappointed with him because of what he went through since Florida and Auburn with his father, with a lot of people that turned their back on him, but his family and stuff was still there. So, that's just me. I'm just a little bit more outspoken. I'm a little older than him. So, you start thinking more different as you get older. Your perspective changes. So that's why I can't blame him all the way because I know he's a young guy. But to see what Colin Kaepernick did and see and that's to me is kind of the contrast. But be that as it may.
The quote, just for our listeners, I don't want to misquote. His quote was that in GQ is that America is beyond race. Those were his words. America's beyond race. So,
right. And so for him,
that sounds a little naive to me.
Right, exactly. But like I said, he's a young man, and I'm not saying he's not doing what he can do. But I just thought like he can probably do a little bit more. And actually, there's a good article, I'll send it to you, with Shannon Sharp was talking about it, and he kind of broke it all the way down with the Cam Newton thing. But hey, that's just my opinion. I'm happy they was able to charge this officer, Betty Shelby, with first degree manslaughter. Her bond was only $50,000, which I thought was kind of low. And she only stayed in jail a couple hours, and of course it got out. But I agree with Perry says, when you have to go through that type of system, and people see that you will be charged. Well, and I think there's a lot of pressure.
But in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there's a precedent in that there was an officer, I can't remember the man's name, but same situation, 2015, and he got 4 years. So not only is she staying in trial, but there's a precedent putting these guys in jail. And I have a classmate from graduate schools in Tulsa, and this is what I find and I texted this to you guys, I found it just kind of fascinating from a societal standpoint. Oklahoma is a deeply red state. There are not a whole lot of black folks in Oklahoma. Not a whole lot of black political power is importantly in Oklahoma. Right? And there's not a lot of there's not that I guess that need to appease politically, if you will, that you might find in the South or in other places. Yeah, this is twice now in 2 calendar years that there's been this kind of incident, and the officer was very swiftly charged, being held accountable for very, very questionable, I'm going to say from what I've seen, criminal actions. That's happened twice. Now, you have some of the more quote-unquote enlightened places of the world, like New York City, where a man gets choked to death for selling loose cigarettes and there are no charges, or a place in Missouri in the Midwest, which I always thought didn't seem to suffer from these issues, didn't have the perception it suffered from these issues like in the South, and you have a guy that shoots a guy from 30 feet away with his hands up in the air and there are no charges, and you have incidents, a lot of places in which there are no charges, or in Baltimore where they could not get a conviction, and it makes, and on one hand I almost want to say Tulsa could be a case study for what they're doing different. The only thing that's frustrating to me is it just seems like Tulsa's doing what they're supposed to do, but the fact of the matter is most places aren't doing what they are supposed to do. So I'm wondering what is different in Tulsa, which this doesn't really fit any of the. It's not the first place I would think they'd have pressure to resolve this quickly, and yet that's exactly what's happened.
Right. The pressure. Actually, you have to give the DA a lot of credit to be able to. And I think he did the right thing by charging manslaughter.
Yeah, I think it's the right charge.
Of course, everybody wants first-degree murder or second-degree, but that involves intent. And,
that's not what it was. That's not what I saw.
It was. Not what I really saw.
Yeah.
So, because we've seen a couple of times where officers were overcharged, and I think the DA, knowing they can't really convict them on those charges. So, we don't have any charges down here in Baton Rouge. And Officer Sterling we haven't heard anything.
I'm not holding my breath on that one either.
No one has heard anything. They're not giving us no type of updates. No one is saying nothing. And so we're seeing this happen around other parts of the country, and at least things are moving for these guys. It seemed to be a lot of momentum at first when Alton Sterling got killed here, but now we don't hear anything about Mr. Why don't we even call him Mr.?
Oh, the trigger man. The trigger man. Yeah, Blake Salamone.
Right.
So
suspected race soldier. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. So yeah, that's if you're wondering, the silence will probably continue. So do we have?
Well, we do have a song for today. I had to pick out something. I could play a little something. We'll take a little bit of a break. I think we need a music break right now. So check this out.
Hold it now.
This is an interesting topic. I didn't know about a lot of this stuff. Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right, that was Shut 'Em Down by Public Enemy. You can never go wrong, and me and Erica actually having a little bit of a mini debate. We was just talking about, you want the plus? We were just talking about Cam Newton, and of course the thing that has been going on, and I just reiterated to him that, hey, me and Cam Newton is 27 years old, so his mind is in another space right now. His perspective on things, and he has a lot to lose. He has a lot of responsibilities. He has a lot of endorsements. You see Cam Newton eating the yogurt. You see him on Powerade and different things of that nature and everything. So I understand his position, but my thing is, you don't have to be a freedom fighter. You don't have to be Martin Luther King. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be that because you're an athlete. You're a young man. Even though you're a role model, whether you like it or not, you run and give kids football. You do this, so you're putting yourself out there as being that type of guy. But you get on a position and stand on it. Whether it's if you say, hey man, I'm not an activist. I really don't I just want to play football. And and we could all be kumbaya or whatever. I would respect that. I respect your position, but. It's kind of like, to me, he's playing both sides of the fence. When you go through his quotes and you go from last year and you go from here and you look at all the things, because I've looked at it myself. And if you go through that and you look at it, he's not standing on, he's trying to appease both sides. and it's rubbing both sides the wrong way. You know what I mean? That's just my point.
You know, we could have a very, very interesting corollary. I wasn't aware of some of the recent interviews Cam Newton had done, the GQ interview or the 1/8 remark you told me about just seconds before we came back on the air. And I don't want to go into a sidebar, but we could have a very, very interesting discussion on that from a societal, from a sociological standpoint. That there's a lot to talk about there. But what else there's also a lot to talk about is that we do have college football today. Today is Saturday.
Yeah.
And hey, I'll tell you what, man.
That's the relief that we got.
Absolutely, man. And it's something that can definitely bring people from all walks of life together. As we have 2 schools here in Baton Rouge that are on the road today in the great state of Alabama. Playing today, we have. Oh, come on! There we go.
There we go. Pull it up. Where our sound effects?
The Southern University Jaguars.
On the bluff.
The school on the bluff. They do travel out of state today. They face Alabama A&M. This Southern Jaguars team, we've kind of stepped very tepidly and very, very timidly, not making overly bold statements about them.
Right.
You know, there's only so much. You know, our man Derek Thomas, who runs Mission Control, he's kind of a SWAC aficionado. He can probably give us more detail than either you or I can offer. But just from what I'm seeing, the tea leaves I'm reading, there's been a lot of cause for optimism about the Southern Jaguar football team and their prospects in the Southwestern Athletic Conference this year. And we've kind of dropped little hints on that without being overly committal because we didn't get, you know, their real body of work. Their real league is the SWAC. So while they're playing these games against ULM and you know, making some money for the school and getting tuned up and playing Tulane, you see a little bit of what they have, but you don't know exactly what they have because they're not playing a team in their league. They played tough against ULM. They were kind of in parts of the game against Tulane, although the score was very one-sided. But then they had their first real test, the Columbia Blue game at A.W. Mumford Stadium last week against Alabama State. And they absolutely destroyed Alabama State 64-6. And as Perry brought up a little earlier today, you know, you do have some of those teams from the less competitive, your Mississippi Valley State, your Alabama State, your lower tier of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Sure, you'd expect some one-sided scores, but Southern hung 60. And you have a quarterback like Austin Howard, and you have veteran leaders on that team like your Willie Quinns of the world, and of course Leonard Tillery. This team has been together for a while. They've been under Coach Odoms for quite some time now. This is their 4th year by my count. I'm sorry, either their 3rd or their 4th year under Coach Odoms, and 4th. Thank you. And I'll tell you, it looks like it's coming together. You hear that expression a lot, but based on a little bit I've seen so far, this is a different kind of Southern University team. So they go to Alabama A&M today in Huntsville. The game will not be on television, but it will be on 106.5 FM here in Baton Rouge. I've got some guarded optimism about the Jags. Alabama A&M is one of those teams where they I don't, at least not from what I'm seeing on paper, I don't really have a lot of cause for optimism with them. So I expect Southern to go on the road, and even though road games are hard, I expect them to win, and I expect them to win rather comfortably based on what I've seen so far out of this team.
I second that emotion. Yeah, I second that motion. Southern has been, to us this year, they've been kind of under the radar a little bit, and I think that's the spot they want to be in. As we'll see as the SWAC is coming forward, is coming ahead, part of the schedule here in a minute. Coach Odoms, I have to give him a lot of credit. I think Southern has found their coach for a while. This guy has came in and done a wonderful job. Coach Perm, I mean.
Well, you know, look, and one thing I like about Dawson Odoms.
Playing with my money is like playing with my emotion.
Thank you, Coach. You know, I feel him. I feel him. I feel him.
Yeah, but he's done a fantastic job being in his 4th year here with the Jaguars, and I see the same thing you see. I see with the veteran team with Willie Quinn and these guys and Tillery coming back. Hey, I'm going with Southern to beat Alabama A&M. I don't have a score, but I'm gonna go with the win.
And one other note on Southern University, and I've got to mention this. You know, of course, they had a player last year who went to Central High School who were facing McKinley's facing next week, and they had a player, Devin Gales, who was injured in a game against the University of Georgia. He attempted a block on their place kicker, and I guess it went very terribly wrong for the young man. And of course, he suffered a spinal injury. He's still in his wheelchair. Although the medical updates I've seen have been ever so slightly better every time. But I had to make a note of this. There's an article in the Advocate today about how the University of Georgia flew Devin Gales to Atlanta after his family, after the flood took the family home. And, you saw when the incident first happened how they rallied around him, how they helped pay for medical care, helped raise some funds. I mean, basically, the UGA was first rate all the way in their treatment. And Coach Mark Richt, who's no longer there, was first rate in how he helped support the family in any way he can. And this is another example. This is after the fact and has nothing to do with the football game. But yet, it shows they have not forgotten about this kid and the unfortunate thing that happened during a football game. So, class act for University of Georgia. I will definitely... They also sent him a T-shirt with Gales on it and with that University of Georgia G on it, the logo style on it. So I mean, just first rate, first rate.
And that's what we want, Eric. That is what makes America great. That article, what you just read right there, that is what make America great right there. That's what I'm proud of when I hear stories like that. Even though we have a lot of other stories, but those little things like that, because a lot of people that do a lot of things that don't get recognized.
Good news doesn't
like
sell.
With the flood, like with my family, taking in people, loaning people, finding them financial help, out here giving food away, out here helping the homeless. I see it every day. And so, man, that's what makes America great.
I agree 120%. So big kudos to the University of Georgia. I'll definitely go easier on them when I start throwing them under the bus when LSU plays.
Right.
So, meanwhile...
On the other side of town, moving quickly, rolling swiftly in the hoopty right.
So, look, we got LSU. It's one of those teams I don't have a read on yet. LSU, they defeated Mississippi State last week. The score was close. I don't think the competition was close. I thought this is my personal opinion, I thought you had a string of very unusual plays that narrowed the score by 2 touchdowns.
You got a Uzi? Shots fired. you know who I'm giving this Uzi to? I got to give a shots fired to our guys that work mission control. You heard what he said last week. You must have forgot.
About
Mississippi State was his team.
Shout out to my Bulldogs. That's Derek.
Derek, you got to get.
Come on, Windows 10.
You got to get the Uzi, Derek.
Ridiculous.
We got to give it to you. I know you're listening in.
Well, Windows 10 is working on Derek's side right now, and that's one of my little sidebars. There you go. Like to send that out to Bill Gates too. This nonsense. My goodness, Mississippi State. And look, Mississippi State, they closed the door, but that score was a 20-point game. LSU played ball control in the second half, and the Bulldogs they strung together a drive that was pieced with very thin threads, with a very strange turnover and some penalties that were questionable and some instant replays, and that's fine. And they got a onside kick, and they managed to make the score look closer at the end. I never really felt threatened in that game, even though they narrowed the score. I thought LSU, particularly for the first 3.5 quarters, just played ball control and smothered Mississippi State. So I think they got a quarterback now who can throw the ball and make reads and stuff like that.
What do you think? You think he's better?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, look, I like to see. Look, I like Brandon. I was a big Brandon Harris supporter. I mean, he was an Under Armour All American. There was a lot of excitement surrounding him when he came here. I was a big proponent of putting him in and letting this kid play with the physical tools he had, but here we are through 3 seasons. He hasn't, and I'm looking at Danny Etling last week. It's not like Danny Etling's a Heisman candidate, but he's making basic throws you expect a college quarterback at this level to make that Harris was not consistently executing. And I'm looking at these 11-yard plays and these 12-yard slants. I'm thinking Brandon Harris just wasn't doing that. And so I think LSU's got that guy, I really wanted Brandon Harris to be successful. I was like, but I can wish in one hand, in the other, and see what fills up first. And I think Les Miles and LSU for the remainder of this season, probably next season, they have their guy. This is a guy who can execute those plays in that pro-style offense that opens up the running game and gives the defense a better chance to help LSU win.
Who was the quarterback that ended up going to San Diego? What was it, 2007 when LSU won? Danny kind of reminds me of him. He was a very good game manager.
Oh, you're talking about Matt Flynn.
Matt Flynn.
Matt Flynn. Yeah, he did. He went to Green Bay, didn't he?
He went to a few teams.
Yeah, when he bounced around, but yeah, he
was
good game manager.
Good game manager.
Didn't put you in bad positions. Yeah,
exactly. That's kind of what Danny reminds me of. So we'll see here going forward. Did you hear about Brandon Harris getting death threats after the first game?
I'm not. I know that I heard there was some ugly stuff going on social media. I didn't know it was death threats per se, but we've seen this, and Baton Rouge, you need to check yourself. Really, those of you that engage in that type of thought, it is a game. These are kids, and while he did not play well, and I do think the benching was appropriate, he played his best. He has not done anything but represent this university the way an athlete's supposed to represent this university. And I think people I don't care if you did the trolling or not, if you engage in that kind of thought, if you encourage that kind of speech, I think you should be ashamed of yourself.
Right. When you take it to the level of violence or doing somebody, like you said, just trolling or saying, oh, you suck or you're not good, that's something different. But when you start saying, hey, I'm going to kill you or this and that, or I'm going to hurt your family.
Or start throwing ugly kind of language out there.
That affected him a lot.
I'm sure it would.
They had an article in the paper in the Advocate actually about the death threats after the Wisconsin game, and his cousin was saying how much that really affected him, and he was shook up by it.
I think it's absolutely disgusting. And like I said, the people that engage in that kind of thought, and whatever their motivations are behind it, and that's not coincidence. The kind of language I'm using. I think if you're an adult, you should be able to read between the lines. I think you are part of the problem. You should be ashamed of yourself, and really you should take your laptop and throw it in the river and just take yourself off of Twitter and sign up for a punch in the nose. But speaking of punch in the nose, hopefully LSU can punch the Auburn Tigers in the mouth. 5 o'clock, Jordan-Hare Stadium on ESPN, also on 98.1 FM here in Baton Rouge. Look, LSU's got LSU. LSU's gotten the better of Auburn for much of this year. Now, Auburn ever since after Cam Newton left and they were in position when they played the national championship game. Remember they had the kick six and that propelled them to the SEC title.
They beat Alabama.
And they went and they had, I think, not Nick Marshall. Who was the other quarterback? I can't think of this kid's name all of a sudden. I'm not exactly myself this morning. I should have stayed in the Holiday Inn Express. But that Auburn team, that team under Gus Malzahn, you thought you had another dynasty in the making. Like you had two teams, Alabama and Auburn, rising in tandem in Alabama, wreaking havoc on the rest of the SEC. But since then, Auburn's just kind of been like another team. I have not seen quarterback play from Auburn since then. Since the Nick Marshalls of the world were handling their business at Auburn. I don't think. The crowd's going to be fired up. It's an SEC game. They're going to lick their chops for LSU. And it's going to be tough to go on the road, and it's always hard to go on the road and win the SEC. But I think LSU's running game alone against Auburn's defense, which I've been impressed, really. I think LSU wins this game. I expect them. I don't expect to sweat by the end of the game. I'm not saying there will not be competitiveness. I'm not saying it will not be close at times. I'm not even saying it won't be close in the fourth quarter. What I'm saying is by the end of the game, I'm not going to have that edge of the seat, biting my fingernails, wiping my brow because I'm worried about the game getting away. I think LSU wins this game with a certain degree of comfort.
Well, this is the game where almost you see the highlight with Leonard Fournette running on these guys last year, and they're jumping all across his neck, and he's breaking tackles. And it was one of the games that put him at the top of the Heisman race last year. So what about this year? Can LSU go into Auburn and beat these guys? Wow, this is actually a tough game for me. But I'm gonna go with LSU. I'm gonna go with Leonard Fournette. I'm kind of hesitant though. I will say that. I'm gonna put out a disclaimer. I am hesitant on this game. In a way, I want to pick Auburn, but I'm gonna go with my gut feeling. I'm gonna go on with LSU. I'm gonna go with LSU.
Look, and it's just look. Auburn could win this game. It's an SEC game. It's on the road. It's a rivalry. You can always throw the records out of the window. We know the cliches. But so you never know. Look who we have coming up in about 7 minutes. We got Noel Jackson with Music Satisfaction.
Here on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio.
Talk this Derek.
Hey, what's going on, Derek? Oh, you called in right on time. Did you get those shots that we sent you?
No, I didn't get them. I've been looking at houses.
Oh, you've been looking at houses. Oh, okay. Well, let me give you a few shots real quick. I need you to check this out real quick.
See, we were talking about your support of the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
We got something for you, you and those Bulldogs.
And we know that you are from the Magnolia State. So we were talking about the LSU Mississippi State game last week. and also talking about the delays in Windows.
There you go. Take them shots.
So there's Mississippi State for you.
You know, my Bulldogs almost pulled out. Y'all know y'all was scared.
Almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
How's it going, man? How you doing?
Oh, it's going all right, man. Just still in this flood recovery, trying to find out where I'm gonna lay my head next. I'm blessed.
Look, we appreciate you calling in. You might be able to shed some light on. We were talking about Southern last week. Can you? I know SWAC football is kind of one of your things. Can you just kind of talk about the Southern University team? It looks like they're off to a good start. I think there's cause for optimism, but I don't follow the SWAC anywhere near as closely as you do. So, could you comment on that for us?
Well, of course, everyone feels like Grambling and Prairie View were going to run away with the SWAC West. I think Southern has a awesome opportunity to reclaim the SWAC West because I feel the SWAC West is going to be decided like it's been decided the past couple of years by the Bayou Classic. And that's going to be an awesome game. You have Southern with their high-powered offense and that running back, Leonard Tillery. He's going to be the all-time leading rusher.
When he's done.
And you have Devontae Kincaid, a kid I've watched since he transferred from Ole Miss. He has Grambling rolling. They would have beat Arizona if he doesn't get hurt. So I think the SWAC West is going to be decided by Grambling and Southern. Out of the East, even though Alcorn lost to UAPB, who's going to challenge Alcorn in the East? No one. So it's going to be either Grambling and Southern versus Alcorn, I think.
That's some good analysis there, and I'm glad you're putting that nugget there because we've seen Alcorn, we've seen they've done well on paper, but again, you don't get to see these schools quite as much. So I do like the confidence you're projecting there, and I think I'm going to extend that confidence when we talk about the Eastern Division going forward. Look, we also have some games coming up. Today's Saturday, but we also have games coming up on Sunday in the National Football League. So look, the game we want to discuss while we have some time. The Saints are 0-2. And actually, I said Sunday a whole bunch of times, but actually it's Monday night. I probably should have played a different trailer. Anyway, they have a game coming up Monday night as the Dirty Birds come down here to New Orleans on Monday night. They're going to take on the Falcons. And I'll tell you what, the Saints.
This is a must-win game for both teams.
It really is. I mean, when you're 0-2, I mean, Atlanta, not so much as New Orleans. They at least have one win. They picked up one last week against the Raiders. But look, the Saints. The Saints again, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. They had a game against the Raiders, which they were winning by 2 touchdowns in the fourth. They blew that one, lost by 1 point. Close game, coulda, woulda, shoulda won. The defense played better than I could have possibly expected against the Giants, especially with their cornerbacks being shredded due to injuries. They didn't allow a single touchdown to the Giants' offense. The only touchdown came off a special teams play off a blocked field goal, but they lost on a walk-off field goal at the end. Another close game. Close doesn't count. The bottom line is they're 0-2. Now, Atlanta's got its own host of problems. They're coming to the Superdome. It's going to be on the 10-year anniversary of Katrina, a night game in the Superdome. New Orleans fans don't really need a lot of reasons to get lubed up and fired up, so that crowd is going to be, they're going to have a 12th man on their back. Atlanta's got problems on their offensive line. They've got problems with their defense, and I'm not really sold on their running game either. I think the Saints should win this game. I think they will win this game, and they had better win this game. So I'm going with the Saints on Monday night.
I picked against the Saints the last 2 weeks, and I was correct. Atlanta doesn't impress me really at all. They do have Julio Jones. They do have Freeman.
He's dealing with an ankle injury, you know?
He's dealing with an ankle injury. Is Bro still out, right?
Yeah, he's going to be out for a few weeks, I think.
Wow. I'm going to go with you this time, Saints. I'm going with the Saints to beat the Falcons. It's a very must-win. What you got
Joker,
there?
you've been perfect on the year, so I'm liking that.
No. The Saints haven't shown me anything, except for on offense. Drew Brees is going to light up the scoreboard. Matt Ryan is going to light up the scoreboard. It's going to come down to who can make a stop on defense. And the Falcons prove they can at least stop somebody to get a win.
Whoa. What happened last week in New York?
Yeah, what happened?
I mean, how many touchdowns did the Saints cough up on defense last week? 0. I'm just saying. I feel you. I mean, the Saints have had holes on defense. I'm also just giving you a hard time too.
Well, who you picking? We got to give him a Uzi.
I hate to pick against the Saints because I'm a Drew Brees fan, but the Falcons gonna lay eggs all the Saints defense.
Oh man!
So you're going with the Falcons?
I'm going with the Falcons, unfortunately.
I got
This man keep hitting them with the Uzi. Yeah.
Shoot, I'm just messing with you, man.
I got 9 lives.
I think we have unwittingly found Derek's sound effect. Poor man's been with us for a couple of weeks and we're sending Uzis and shotguns at him. Hey, we like to have fun here on Louisiana All American Sports too.
Yeah, man.
We're at the end of the road here.
End of the road.
Look, great show, everybody. Appreciate my boys picking me up today because I definitely have not been feeling my best. And apparently I've attributed Tyrus Thomas and McKinley to Denham Springs. I can't believe I actually said that last night, but I'll fix myself. Anyway, look, we're at the end of the road. And Joker?
Oh, wait a minute.
Your Grammy's not in the mail.
I just want to thank all the listening audience that's out there, my family, K-Shire, my grandson, Kaysen. Hey, I love you guys. See you guys next week.
If Perry's folks are listening, I know they often are, ADTJS. He loves you. I got to always send it out there. And my wife and kids, I hope you're listening. I love you too. Angela, Erica, Elizabeth. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, everybody.
Hail to the King and lots of love. May He protect us from the evil. Hail to the King, lots of love. May He protect us from evil.